All right. Brand new week. And it's beautiful outside. Oh, man. Have you noticed it's light? Have you seen there's a little bit of light outside? The sun comes up a little bit earlier. It's not completely up yet, but there's that glimmer, that twilight, that dawn. Beautiful. The trees are all shooting new leaves. Flowers are in bloom. Birds are chirping. Spring is sprung. Fantastic. You can really feel it. This whole weekend was so warm. I mean, if you were outside during the day on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, you would have just thought, wow, be gone, winter. It's done. And I do love it. I've said it every morning for the last couple of days. I just love this time of year. Something about that, like, renewal that I just absolutely love. How are you, Leanne Mole?
Oh, good. I'm just listening to what you say, and I hope it sticks because I know that Cape Town's facing a bit of a massive freeze at the moment, and you know what that means. Of course, it'll come our way. So
they've also had lots of rain in the Cape over the last few weeks. So
yeah,
that's good. That's good news for them because if they don't get their rain in winter, then they don't get rain.
True. That's true. But yes, definitely a spring feeling this weekend. Oh, it was great. When you just small things like you go past a spa and they're making boerewors rolls, and people are getting ready to have a braai or I don't know, cook something fun for their friends. It just feels good.
Yeah. No, it was very special this weekend. In fact, I spent a bit of the time I think it was mostly Saturday morning and then yesterday in the garden, just kind of, wandering around there rather than in the house, which has been the default for the winter.
In the
just kind of,
house.
yeah, in the house. Seamus says, "Yep, sending you a lekker cold front from the Cape. Thanks very much." Great. Kapamba says, "Good morning. Friday's episode was incredible. I've been thinking about some of the ideas all weekend. Thank you." I'm trying to think what ideas.
Yeah, me too. I didn't want to say.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what thanks. I mean, it's great that Friday's show was good. I mean, I loved having Sam on.
Sam,
but
yeah.
we did kind of jump all over the place. So I'm trying to think what ideas were like breakthroughs. What kind of thing made a difference? Oh, watch this. This is fun, Leanne. This is a kid who was copying you. Look at this.
Suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
Don't be suspicious.
So cute.
Someone sent that in there. The kid was pulling a Leanne Mole. I like that very much. Yeah. There are a couple of messages on the voice notes for the week or over the weekend. Let's take a listen to some of those.
Hey guys, I can't send this, I can't speak too loud, but just letting you know that the Booker one, I'm pretty on. However, I just saw a grown-ass man, like skinny at the bottom, but a gunt on top. And I just thought of you guys, and fuck me, it's probably one of the most filthiest things. I mean, come on. I don't know what to say, but anyway, I'm just saying, fuck. See you on Monday.
So a guy who was skinny at the bottom and at the top, but he had a big gunt in the middle.
Yeah.
I can see it. Yeah.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Hey, I feel pretty similar. I sometimes feel like a Christmas ball on toothpicks. But
like a bladder on a stick, or like a Grunberger Stein. You know those Grunberger bottles.
I've actually lost weight. Hey,
have you? Well done.
No, well, I didn't try even. I'm on the intermittent eating plan.
Oh yeah, that's the way to go.
You think I'm
everybody.
talking. You think I'm talking about intermittent fasting. I'm
Oh, you
talking
mean
about intermittent eating.
what you just haven't been
So,
eating?
yeah, just like when I have time or when I can be bothered to go to the shop and actually buy food,
Oh,
then I
okay. So,
do.
all right, I'm with you. That's awesome. I had a whole week last week. I don't think I went to the shops once.
Yeah.
Meant to. So I've got like very limited supplies in the house at the moment. So it's fine. I mean, I also didn't have anything the week before, but I survived. So, I reckon we buy too much because it's so easy.
Oh,
And
definitely.
we've talked about this before, how much stuff goes to waste and how much shit
Yeah.
lies around that, and you check your fridge and you're like, oh, all that stuff I bought has gone off. I was going through, when was it? On probably Thursday last week. I was just going through stuff and like throwing out things in the pantry and that kind of thing. And there was so much crap that,
Mhm.
you see things in the shop sometimes, even if you're operating on a budget and you're like, oh, that would be nice. And then when you get home, you're like, what did I buy this for?
Sometimes the shop made you do it. The marketing, when they brought out a new section of like I don't know, imported foods or things that you've seen on programs or TV shows or movies that are finally here in South
Yeah.
Africa.
No, I don't know so much. There's, food. Absolutely. I haven't been clothes shopping for ages and ages. I think the last time I went out, I bought like 3 or 4 T-shirts before I went overseas in March, and that
Mm.
that was the last time I bought any new clothes. So, I mean, my wardrobe, um, you could probably see a repeat of outfits now way more regularly, and they're getting like some of the stuff I really need to just get rid of, and
Yeah,
the same goes for the pantry. You sometimes just need to do a clear out. I saw this brilliant show.
the pantry
Yes,
and the pants.
yeah, exactly. I saw this brilliant show. This woman who she like goes into people's houses and organizes them.
Oh yeah. What did you see it on? Was it called a home edit or something?
Something like that. Yeah, I can't remember what it was. I don't know any channels. I kind of flip
Yeah.
through them. When I see something, I stick on that. But she, what did she do? She went into this woman's house. There's this lady who does crafting. Now, I mean, that's a very broad
Ooh.
term. It's a very broad term. So apparently, what
Yeah.
this woman does, she makes cool things. Okay, so she makes pretty things. So she makes like these arrangements of like Easter bunnies in a basket or whatever to,
Yeah.
like I suppose a shop would have them up in
Mhm.
the like Easter egg section or whatever, and they'd put them up there. And this woman is like a disaster. She hoards. Her whole house is full of like craft supplies, but it's a disorganized mess.
Mhm.
It's like the one room was piled to the ceiling, and this is the house. She only has like 3 or 4 rooms in the whole house, right? So she's got like her sitting room, dining room, which is an open plan area. She's got a kitchen, her bedroom, and her bathroom. That's all she's got. But the entire living room, dining room, kitchen thing is just piled chock full of this shit, just all over the place. And she has to get this other lady in who then like helps her organize it. And this guy builds her this desk and this cabinet and like all of these
Mm.
storage things. And then her house looks just a million times better. But I watched this. I thought it's only going to take 3 weeks for this woman to completely reduce it to ash. She's gonna
So I'm
she's gonna fuck it up really quickly. She's gonna make a bigger mess at the end of it. Now she's got more place to like throw shit. Watch.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to figure out. I know you don't really care which show it was, but I do, and I think it was either like a hoarders type show or it was the home edit. Doesn't sound like the home edit to me.
No,
Was it on Netflix?
no. I don't even know how to switch that on. No, this is on a DSTV channel. I can't even tell you which one. Oh, here's Mash. Ding dong. Hi,
Oh,
Mash.
Good morning.
How are you?
look at
Oh,
you.
I am good now. How are you guys? These technical difficulties, but all sorted now.
Why were you so like flushed? Are you all right? You busy?
Yes, can you guys hear me properly?
Yeah, perfectly. Yeah, all good.
Ah, fantastic.
All good. What's been happening? How was your weekend?
Oh, my weekend was actually very relaxed. For once in my life, I had a very relaxed weekend. It was just so calm. I got to spend time with family. I went to the East Rond and got to spend some time with family that side. And actually came back very late last night. Very, very late. But apart from that, it was a very pleasant weekend. Very pleasant weekend. Wasn't wild being in the East Rand and all. So that's very positive.
Okay. At least you got back. At least you got back out of the East Rand. That's all that matters.
Yeah, you got out of there and you got home.
Getting out is always the trick.
Yeah, Tachleho says the Boko won. That's fantastic, but Eben's anger is very unstable. I'm shook. So what? I mean, did anyone watch this? Because I've seen the memes going around of like Eben saying, "What do you mean you run out of Brandewyn?" Or what was the other one? Something about like luister nou fucking mooi vir my.
Yeah, he looked very menacing. I also only saw a clip, but he looked very menacing. And then I saw that he'd apologized, so I don't know if that counts for anything.
Yeah, okay. I mean, like I didn't watch the rugby clearly, so I don't know anything about this. And thank God Tatlecho was there with a little bit of news. Otherwise, we wouldn't know anything about this. We probably wouldn't talk about it if he hadn't brought it up in the comments either.
Yeah.
But if you did pay attention to any news, apparently there was this story about how Gallo Record Company owed the city of Joburg 3 million rand. And it was all over the news the other day. And then it turns out that was false.
Yeah, exactly. So this is City Press, which wrote the story.
Yeah.
And not only wrote the story, but, I mean, it's not like it just appeared in some newspaper that nobody picked up and bought. It's on street polls all over. It's on digital media. And Gallo Records actually stood up for themselves and said, hang on a minute, you guys are speaking absolute rubbish.
Oh, really?
So City Press, so Gallo used to be at a place that's now called Downtown Music Hub Studios. And that's in Joburg. And they reported that artists who were recording there had to bring their own generators after the electricity was cut off for a whole month. And that was due to non-payment of electricity bills by City Power. Apparently, the paper said studios went dark on July the 22nd. And Gallo has now said, we wish to register our utmost disgust at the falsehoods being spread by the City Press newspaper. That Gallo isn't even there anymore in that building.
What?
Those studios were sold to the Department of Arts and Culture over 10 years ago.
So did they just thumbsuck this?
Yeah, maybe they drove past and saw that at night or something, or when
it's dark.
People would usually be recording, it was dark. It was called Downtown Studios when they were there. And then the Department of Arts and Culture called it Downtown Music Hub, rebranded it. And Gallo hasn't had anything to do with that place for 10 years. I mean, I would be so nervous as a journalist and then as an editor, which I am both, is just to publish something without checking, just a Google search.
Yeah.
Just Google search.
Or a phone call.
What's so ridiculous is that these newspapers, I mean, okay, I'm afraid one of those categories of people that I don't give them any leeway as journalists, because they go around snooping around trying to find stories that are usually, it's like they're just trying to collect some clickbait, because that's really what journalism's become. It's not really about those long investigative pieces where they unpack things. I mean, there are very few journalists who can do that anymore. And in this country, most journalists are, they're at the bottom of the barrel. They're earning minimum wage. They do a very average job. They've forgotten that you have to check sources. They think that rumor and gossip and a tweet is enough to go on. And many of them...
And the pressure is high.
Of course, there's huge pressure, because How do you make a name? You have to break a big story, right? So when you smell something, you think something's going on. You don't even bother to check. This is like laziness, the laziest kind of journalism.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we hear that there's an outstanding amount of money here, or someone drops some hint on social media, and then that's enough for them to go on. They don't bother investigating. They don't call anybody up. I mean, this has been going on for years. And these, in inverted commas, journalists who are being churned out of places like Rhodes are absolutely useless. Really, it's just embarrassing. Like, journalism's always been a slightly dodgy profession. There've been some people who've been really good and who've stuck their heads up high and have done amazing stories and broken. When we had Barry Bateman on the other day, who was one of the people who first told us about the Guptas at Waterkloof Air Force Base. I mean, that was a major story because if that hadn't broken, we wouldn't have known anything about the Guptas at all, even till today.
Yes.
Now, there are whistleblowers, all kinds of people, or all kinds of places. We had a discussion on the Burning Platform about this a while ago. But the average journalist, in inverted commas, in this country, they're just like basically they're an aggregator of bullshit on social media, and they can't tell the difference themselves between what's true and not. So now here's, Gallo Record Company, and listen, the record company is also having a tough time because they're not making the kind of money that they used to, and people are now like, oh well, that's Gallo Record Company, and it's embarrassing if you owe the city of Joburg 3 million rand and you can't put the lights on, and then we discover later it's not even you.
Yeah.
I mean, the part about artists having to bring their own generators, where did that come from?
Yeah.
I would have thought maybe, at least have a generator and have artists bring their own petrol, perhaps. Some dignity. Lugging your own generator around Joburg.
But it's so true, Gareth. And I recently, as I mentioned, had family over from New York. And my uncle's cousin, it sounds so far removed, works at the BBC.
Oh yeah.
And he's always been interested in our sort of media landscape, especially because of my involvement. And he said to me, so I haven't spoken to you in years. What's the best radio station to listen to right now, for instance? And I couldn't answer him. I actually couldn't answer him. And I said to him, it seems as if anybody who was ever anything in radio or TV has moved on and no one's training anyone. And if there are, they're not the people who are the right people to be training them. And it was so weird because about 2 weeks after that, I was approached by our friend Dory in Clip Central, who said to me, I've got some extra freelance work for you to do if you're interested. And it's for a really good South African and African company, which is training journalists all over South Africa and Africa. Journalists, but not only journalists, also corporates who deal with the media and how to deal with the media properly, how to, have your press releases in order and your ducks in a row and speak to camera and speak about your brand and approach questions that are thrown at you. And it's just so nice to know that there are people out there who know what they're doing, who finally teaching other journalists what to do.
Wow.
There's no better experience than the practical experience. It's like actually getting in and doing it. But there's just not that many jobs that can pay. And listen, if you want a proper news team, you have to spend money. It's an expensive thing.
Another thing that has made journalism so much more of it's not even a niche thing anymore. It's just all over the place. Is the internet. These journalists have to churn out so many articles a day. They are under so much ridiculous pressure. Half the articles you see nowadays on online publications are just Twitter feeds. It's just whatever's happening on Twitter. You even see those articles
TikTok,
with like the little Twitter embeds on them, or TikTok screenshots, or TikTok embeds. That is all that is happening now because the pressure is so high. The pressure is so high. They have to churn out 24/7.
Yeah, they do. And a lot of it is just shit. So Steve says
Yeah.
allegedly is the journalist's favorite word. That's true.
Yeah.
Audrey's brought up another piece of news over the weekend. Taylor Hawkins, the drummer from the Foo Fighters, right? He was retiring, and they did a tribute concert. Or I don't know if he's retired, if he's dead, or I don't know. I didn't watch it, but I saw some social media on this, and apparently his son was playing the drums or something. Shane, it's like 16 years old, and this kid can play the drums. So that sounds pretty damn cool. But I wish I didn't see it, so I don't know anything about it. But thank you. See, also, we're dependent on you to help us out with some news some of the time. I didn't watch any news over the weekend. Don't know what the hell's going on. But
it was a proper tribute concert because he has died.
Okay.
Oh.
All right.
And then did you guys this speaking of this weekend, did you guys also watch the SAFTAs? They were this weekend.
Oh, okay. No, of course I didn't watch the SAFTAs. Why?
You guys missed out. You guys missed out on the most glamorous Zoom meeting I've ever seen. It was beautiful.
Why was it online? Wasn't it in person?
So that's the confusing part, because the red carpet started at about 7 p.m. and we saw people walking down the red carpet. Well, I wouldn't even call it a red carpet. It was just like a little room. They just walked onto some stage in a room, and it was completely silent.
What were you watching this on? What channel or platform?
It was on S3 or SABC3.
Okay.
It's not called S3 or something. But the red carpet started at about 7, and it was completely silent. So I thought to myself, man, what's going on? Because this is a red carpet. It's supposed to be glitz and glam and noise and cameras flashing. It was completely silent, and people were being interviewed one at a time on some stage. It seemed like they were just in some strange dark room. So I thought to myself, okay, it's probably just, I don't know, some special kind of red carpet. They're interviewing people in some special quiet room or something. Perhaps maybe they're going to go inside. The show's going to be great. Cool. The show starts. It's just complete silence. You don't hear people clapping. You hear
there's
nothing.
A stage and there's a presenter or what?
Yes, there's a stage, there's presenters, but silence. And you don't even see a crowd. No crowd is shown at all at any point. So at this point, I'm wondering, okay, the crowd is probably just really silent, or they're just sitting in another room.
Yeah,
there's something's off.
There was a technical problem, probably.
Yes.
But why are they still doing like Zoom? I mean, why are they doing that? Is it not? I
have no clue. But the most annoying thing was the fact that people were actually there. People were actually walking the red carpet. And as soon as they walked that red carpet, I think they were just thrown into some dungeon or something and summoned only when they want something. Because every time someone wants something, they just show up on a screen. And they'd show up already holding their award. So that's what made it even weirder. They'll be like, the winner is Leanne Mole. Not even half a second later, Leanne is on the screen holding an award in front of a green screen with sparkles behind her. And she's like, thank you so much. And to make things worse, they didn't even take the effort to just stream whatever's on the screen onto our screens. So they just pointed the camera at that screen. Very low res screen, very low res.
So
it was so hazy. And I was like, what is going on here? And the whole time, the entire thing is completely silent. So when somebody wins, there's no clapping, there's nothing. It's just utter silence.
That's so weird.
It was awful.
Do you think it's a budget issue? But I mean, still.
They issued an apology on Twitter. And basically, it was the tender that was awarded for last year. I think they awarded it for this year as well. I think it was a 2-year thing. So the company that did it last year had to do it this year as well. So that's where the data started. Because now, soon as the show went live, everyone was like, but it's not COVID. COVID is over. Why are they still doing this?
This is what I don't understand. You've confused me.
It was terrible. It was terrible. Imagine getting all dressed up to be thrown in a dungeon and be summoned just to shoot your little Zoom meeting acceptance speech. It was
that is so odd.
Pathetic. I mean, it's like, first of all, it's SABC, so I'm not surprised because they they seem to have totally given up on the idea of broadcasting. It's like whatever we can do to save money now, and it's not even. I don't even think they're even trying to save money. I think they don't know what else to do. They've got so little running around that they have to slap something together. But how ridiculous! Like how ridiculous that this is the South African Film and Television Awards.
Yeah.
That's the disgrace.
And it looks
That's
like
the
it's been
biggest
put together
disgrace.
by a first-year student.
Yeah.
In fact, a first-year student probably would have done better.
And also, I
Honestly.
mean, I'm really like I'm so sick of these online meetings now, but I can still do them, and I do them more efficiently and faster, and like with less. It's less stress and effort. And we went through three of them on Friday morning, and they went like this, and we got shit done, and it was great. I mean, Mash, you were in 2 of them with me, and it was really good. I mean, it was like quick meetings, did briefings, got some stuff looked at, approved. Like, I love it when people are efficient, but it seems to me that this has become it's also an excuse for really unproductive people to pretend they're doing things, especially those ones who refuse to switch on their cameras. We all know those ones.
Yeah, I
We
get
know them.
confused by that. I've got a colleague at one of the businesses that I work at, and I've never seen what she looks like.
Yeah,
And we're in meetings. We're in
Yen.
meetings with a client
Uh-uh.
and they've all got their cameras on. The clients, so there'll be 2 of us or 3 of us from the company, and then 2 or 3 clients. Everyone's got their cameras on, and she never ever turns hers on.
That is so
I think
odd.
that-
Does she at
I
least
think that's-
respond in time?
Yeah, no, she's all professional and all the rest of it. It's just, and also there's no like, sorry, I prefer not to put my camera on, or there's nothing like that. It's just, hello, this is how this is how I operate.
If everybody else is on and you're not, you need to get on.
It's a bit rude,
Sorry.
isn't it?
You need to get
Yeah,
on.
I think like you have to get on that camera. Like if everybody else in the call is on and you're the only one who isn't, you need to be on there. What's the excuse?
Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise,
She's-
tell us what the excuse is.
I was once in a Zoom meeting with a previous client of mine, and there was this lady, and she'd always have her camera off. And I remember she'd never be summoned a lot. She'd never actually be like talked to directly a lot. But there was one time that somebody actually did address her and said, "Hey, listen here, blah, blah, blah. Please give us an update on what's going on with this." And then we all silent for about 20 seconds, no response. Hi, we want a response on this. Yes, all our cameras are off, but we're used to having our cameras on either way, but she always has hers off all the time. But this day we realized why. And I feel like she felt comfortable because this time around, everybody's cameras was off. So I think she took it as a chance to just, do a grocery shopping, go for a bath.
Wow.
Sit in the bath.
Well, so a friend of mine runs this cloud dating thing, and he was telling me that one day they did a series of dates, and it's people who obviously this is the middle of COVID, right? So people were all online at home, but you get to have your first meeting virtually. So what they do is they have like this rotation system where every guy gets to spend, I don't know, 5 minutes with every girl, and so there's a schedule. So this one guy calls him and goes, I don't understand. Like, I've paid money. Where's this girl? I'm talking to a chair. And he said, what? So he goes online and he tries to see what's going on. This girl she's got in a car and she's going somewhere, and she goes, oh no, I have something I had to do. She's like, but you signed up for this thing.
It's a scheduled thing.
And she's like, can't I do it from the car? He's like, no. We set this up so that you could actually meet guys. That's the whole reason you're doing this. You have to actually be sitting somewhere and doing this. She's like, can't I just do it while I'm doing the groceries? He's like, you want to go on a date while you're doing you can't even multitask while you're driving and being on a video conference call. I mean, people will take chances, hey? It's unbelievable. And I think it's just, it's like partly because they think they can be super efficient, but they can't. That's also true. Like, they're not as efficient and brilliant as they think. Everybody thinks, I can do all these 15 things at once. No, you can't.
They must stop lying to themselves. Just stop lying to themselves, because nobody can do that. Nobody can do that. Yeah.
Oh, listen, they're making all these really cheap shows on TV as well, where you now suddenly, they'll be doing like a TV show in someone's back garden, and it's disgusting. It's like these face brick prison-like walls. There's a pile of like garden shit in the corner.
Rubble.
Yeah, rubble. And you're like, what happened to being professional? Because if you want to say that everybody is now a broadcaster, which we believe at Cliff Central, right? People are all in this business. No matter who you are, you can have a clean background for your Zoom call. Just a clean, tidy background.
That is true.
You can have
your environment doesn't even have to be clean itself. Just stand in front of a wall. Just set up your laptop in front of a wall.
I like to go back to this woman who's a hoarder or whatever, and is trying to like tidy up her house. You see how people live, and you're like, Jesus, it doesn't cost money to be tidy. I know people who have no money, but they have a tidy kind of environment. They just keep they put their washing in a basket. They don't just throw it on the floor behind them.
It was something my gran always said. My gran and grandfather grew up on the mines, basically, in Rhodesia. He was a miner. He would literally work underground, and they had absolutely no money and 4 kids, the story. And she being a very religious person, I didn't actually know this at the time, but the Bible frowns upon mold, on anything being moldy. So, it's advocating cleanliness. So she was always very, very clean, just by nature, and then also her Christianity. And she always said, it doesn't matter how poor you are, you can always find soap and water and make sure that everything around you is clean, including what you're wearing. That always
I have a friend who is so moneyed. She has so much money. Her family has so much money, and they're just living the fabulous life. She has Louis Vuitton handbags. She has Balenciaga slippers. She's living her best life. And this friend of mine, I had never went to her place before. Met on social media. We meet out publicly. So social spaces, we always come across each other. And one day she was like, friend, so my car went to service. Please help me with groceries. Please, can we take your car, go do some groceries, come back to my place, and maybe I could fix you some wine or something, and we could hang out. Cool. We do our groceries, go back to her place, and as soon as she opens that door, she turns back and says to me, it's a bit messy. And I thought to myself, it's fine, man. You're my friend. I don't mind. I don't mind just a little bit of a mess. It's fine.
Yeah.
She opens the door and I walk in. First thing I notice, my feet stick to the ground.
Oh no, it's all crunchy.
It's all crunchy. The floor is supposed to be white. It is gray, dark gray. And to make things worse, her bedroom is just, and she might be listening to this. Hi, friend. Anyway, so her bedroom is just an absolute disaster. All her clothes, all her Louis Vuitton, everything is just sitting there. And I thought to myself, seeing you in public, I would never suspect that this is the life you're living, this disgusting life. Obviously, I didn't stay for wine. I was like, I'm actually, I'm in a hurry.
I think I would have still stayed for wine.
Listen,
wine.
You mentioned Balenciaga, and then we've got to get to some news headlines. But look at these Balenciaga bottle slippers that came up on my feed over the weekend. No, I'm not kidding. Listen,
are these real?
Telling you.
No.
I promise you. And they're shaped like for example, you'd squash a water bottle, and
before you put it into the bin, you would squash all the air out of an empty bottle and put the lid back on. But then it's got attached to it the top of a flip flop, whatever you want to call them, which says Balenciaga on it, and the person wearing them is wearing a pair of socks, white socks. So they've got their big toe and then the others squished together.
I believe it's real, and I'm not surprised. And I'll bet you that friend of Mash's would buy a pair of these because they, they've got the word Balenciaga on them, so they must be good.
Absolutely, and they'll fit her aesthetic.
Look, I have to just put in there as a disclaimer that it could be mental health issues as well when your home looks like that. But that's just to protect those people who have that issue. So just putting it out there as you are.
All right, let's look at a few stories in the news this morning. So the first one is that the mayor of Johannesburg is confident that the coalition will complete its electoral term. She's built a little coalition in the city of Joburg that she is trying very hard to keep together. That is Mpopalatse. She's hit out at opposition parties who are eyeing her removal, saying that the multi-party coalition will finish its term. Following the successful ousting of Council Speaker Vasco da Gama on Thursday, opposition parties have pointed to Palatse, claiming she was the next to be removed from her position. However, her spokesperson said opposition parties were peddling misinformation in an attempt to sow divisions within the coalition while the ruling government is focused on repairing and rebuilding the city. It is therefore about the ANC and their hangers-on, and because of them that the Joburg multi-party government has a short period of time and has already made progress in undoing years of neglect. What is also significant is that all councillors and senior managers will be subjected to lifestyle audits. Many will struggle to justify why there is a large deficit between what they claim to earn and the lifestyle they live.
My question is, who's conducting the audits, number one? Is it external?
Yeah, well, this is it. They've got to do it externally. Otherwise, how are we going to believe them, right?
Yes.
ANC caucus leader Dada Morero, who was actually on our show on Thursday, said they would push through a no-confidence motion against Palatse at the next seating, which is going to be on Thursday this week. In a joint statement, coalition partners DA, Action SA, COPE, Freedom Front Plus, IFP, Patriotic Alliance, and the ACDP said they are committed to the coalition. So this is just the ANC in their death throes in Johannesburg, trying to assert themselves, but no one's really terribly impressed. And then this is interesting. Prince Charles's friend says that Harry and Meghan are going to be frozen out of the royal family. Best thing that could happen,
it's coming.
Right? Yeah, according to a publication called The Daily Beast, one of Prince Charles's friends has said that Charles adores Harry and would like nothing better than get their relationship back. But in a meeting next week, but a meeting next week is unlikely. Everything was already on hold until they saw what was in Harry's book. But if Meghan is actively threatening to reveal further secrets and telling interviewers, I haven't signed anything, I can say whatever I want, then it's not surprising that they're being frozen out. If you're even interested in this stuff.
I know she's your favorite person.
Yeah, she's terrific. I just love her. She's absolutely lovely. Not at all an attention-seeking Hollywood,
So what does being frozen out mean? Because weren't they already cut off previously?
Well, they chose to cut themselves off.
They've still got titles and
remember they were invited for the Queen's Jubilee thing, but if they're totally frozen out, that means they can't come back. Then they really are left out. I hope that's what happens. I think a lot of people are very yeah, get them out. And then the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria has thrown out an urgent application by Outsurance to have Hippo's controversial ad removed from screens. The advert got tongues wagging this week when it featured an actor who some said resembles Katlego Maboy in what appeared to be a spoof of an Outsurance ad. In it, the man can be seen
I saw that.
Yeah, in it, the man can be seen discussing ways to save on vehicle insurance when he and a customer are interrupted by a hippo, showing them a better quote. The woman confronts the man about the saving and then tells him out. Papers shown indicate that the matter was heard on Monday and was struck off the roll. Outsurance was ordered to pay the costs of the application. Excellent. Good. Because didn't they fire Katlego because they didn't like him? They didn't like that whole story with him, right?
It was a controversy.
Yeah, and
which is now being cleared.
Yeah, that woman who claimed his ex or his wife or whoever it was, who claimed that he was, abusive and all the rest of it, turned out to be nonsense. And he'd cheated on her, and there was a whole thing. Anyway, this is the guy in the ad, and he does look a little bit like.
Yeah, I mean, I had to look twice.
But that's
so
clever.
it's not him.
No, but it looks like him.
Wow.
I reckon, if there's any bunch of adverts that deserve to be taken the piss out of, it's those. It's those.
They fold it so easily. They deserve it.
Yeah. No. I mean,
it's still interesting how in South Africa, competitive advertising is still a no-no, and there's so many strict rules around it. Whereas in the States, you can literally mention a competitor's name in your advertising if you want to.
Yes. I mean, you've seen Samsung and Apple ads. Those two are always attacking each other.
Correct. Yeah. And it's good. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are some of the news stories this morning. Let me quickly tell you, there's a series of podcasts that we've done with Investec, which you can check out wherever you get your podcasts. The transition from fossil fuels to renewables is well underway, but solar and wind technologies aren't ready for baseload responsibility. Coal, natural gas, and nuclear will remain key in the energy mix in South Africa. It's something we've spoken about a couple of times. It's big in the news, and we continue to talk about it. You can find out more in the latest episode of Future Impact. It's a terrific series that we've done with Investec. You can listen to it on cliffcentral.com or wherever you get your podcasts. It's called Future Impact, and it's brought to you by Investec. It's absolutely awesome. Some really interesting things that they've looked into there. And even if you're not the kind of person who would normally pay attention to things like sustainability, the thing that makes this interesting is that it's going to affect all of us at some stage or another, so you need to pay attention. Also, coming up a little bit later on, we're also going to check in on Markets Mondays, which we'll do with markets.com. I'm excited to bring you the first episode with one of our experts, which we'll get to a little bit later on. But right now it is time for It's Going to Be Okay with Dr. Hanan, who is a renowned psychologist and head of the Anxiety and Trauma Clinic in Johannesburg. And we're also going to be joined by Sarah, who needs some help from Dr. Hanan. And she'll explain what the problem is, and she'll explain what she needs some help with in just a moment or two. Dr. Hanan, obviously, always valuable. You had a session with him last week, Deanne?
I did indeed. And it's been on my mind a lot. So, yeah, exciting, exciting times.
You said you're actually going to be working with him a little bit?
Yeah, but it's on the list. Very, very busy times. In fact, I'll give you a quick show of my to-do list.
Oh, wow.
48 items.
Look at you. You've got a whole bunch of stuff to do.
Yeah, new clients, new jobs. So let's see how we go.
Hey, Doc, how are you?
Guys, how you doing? Good. Summer's here.
Awesome. So, Dr. Hanan, I'm going to put you on to Sarah. Sarah's video is going to be off, but she's got a story she wants to tell you, and she needs your advice and help. So I'm going to bring her on. Hey, Sarah.
Hi, good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm very good, thanks. And yourself?
Hang on. I think Siri just asked me because I said, hi, Sarah. And I think Siri decided.
How is Siri doing?
Sorry. Yeah. Don't ask her. She wants to talk. All right. So Sarah, not Siri. Tell us what the story is, and I'll put you onto Dr. Hanan, and he can hopefully give you some pointers.
Okay. Thank you so much for the time. So I've got a problem in my life, where the father of my child is a narcissist, and we're not together since she was like 18 months old, and so and my situation changed so that I'm in a new relationship, and the guy's mother is a narcissist, and she's really trying her best to break this relationship up using the kids, because between us we've got 3 kids, ranging between the ages of 2 years and 7. So she's quite manipulative. So is my ex, my father's child. All I want to know, or what I need is, I need tools and advice how to work with people that's got narcissistic behaviors, that's in your life that you can't escape, because yeah, they part of our makeup at the moment.
Right. So, Sarah, how is he still involved in your life? What's his role? And does he see the kids? Does he not see the kids? Does he fetch them? Is he consistent? Is he inconsistent? What's his role? What's his play in your life currently?
Okay, currently I haven't seen him for 3 years. The last time my daughter saw, sorry, only the one daughter is his. I've only got one. So we haven't seen him for 3 years. The last time that she saw him, it was extremely rough. I had to get a interdict, I don't know, against him, for verbal abuse. So he doesn't he's not reliable with child support or anything. He's not in the country at the moment. And I don't know when he's going to be back. But he does video call her on and off, and he's quite demanding, with still being the father, obviously, and making choices. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what does she say about him? What does she say to you about her dad? Does she want to see her dad? Does she want to engage with her dad? Does she miss her dad? What's her take on her dad?
She loves him dearly. When he wants to speak to her and I tell her, listen, your father asks if you can phone him, she says no, she doesn't want to. So I don't force her to do it. I only do it when she wants to phone him. When she does phone him, she's quite teary. She misses him. Yeah.
She does, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so Sarah, you know from experience that dealing with narcissists, the common denominator amongst them is the emotional immaturity. They don't play the game nice, because one thing that categorizes narcissists is that it's all about me, what I need, what I want, how I want to conduct myself, how I want to play the game. And it's not about the other people on the other side of the table. It's not about you. It's not about your needs. It's not about what you feel is appropriate. It's actually what they need. It's like a child. So children gravitate towards immediate gratification. They're unable to actually put themselves in other people's shoes. So I'll give you an analogy. Imagine you're sitting with two adults are sitting in a room with a jar of 10 cookies in front of them. As two adults, you realize that fair game and fair play would be, well, if I have 5, you have 5 as well. So the moment I have my 5 cookies, well, I'm just going to stop because I know the other 5 belong to you. But children just take all of it. And when I say children, I don't actually mean children by age. I mean children by maturity, because a lot of adults are just children and they don't have this ability to go, well, I've had 5, the rest are for you. They just want to take as much as they want to and as much as they can. And that's something that categorizes a narcissist. They don't actually look after your needs because it's all about me. Now, how do you deal with a narcissist? So there's 2 things and 2 very important points that I want to make. One is, how do you deal with a narcissist? And 2, specifically protecting your daughter or protecting kids. For those who are listening who have parents or siblings that are narcissists that have kids as well. So first of all, the only way to deal with narcissists is to set real boundaries, real specific rules of the game. Because remember, they don't look after your needs, so you have to look after your needs. And narcissist looks after them, and if you look after them too, well, then who is left behind, which is, well, obviously you. So you have to set the rules of the game. So what you need from them, but not generally. For example, you will not say to a narcissist, I want you to behave, because that's like saying to a child, I want you to behave. It doesn't mean anything. You would specifically tell the father of your child exactly how you want the rules of the game to be, with consequences if it's not adhered to. So, for example, you would say to the father of your child, your time with our daughter is on Monday at 7:30. If you don't arrive by 7:30, I'm not opening the door. That is just the way it is. So unless you set these specific boundaries, these narcissists take and take and take and take and take. And the cost is not only you, but more importantly, it is your daughter. Now, so number one is you have to set some strict and specific boundaries with consequences. Remember, boundaries with consequences. Boundaries by themselves mean nothing. Even if they are specific, if you tell a narcissist, or for that matter, a child, I want you to behave in a particular way, but you don't attach consequences to it, well, as children, they just don't do it because why would I? It's about me, 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 and the lowest hanging fruit. So you have to remember, everybody remember, boundaries without consequences is nothing. You have to attach consequences to the boundaries. But how do you manage your child? I need him, and therefore you, and the boundaries to ensure that there's consistency, stability, predictability, at least for your child. I need you to protect your child by offering stability. How old is your child now? How old is your daughter?
She's 6.
Yes. So the last thing that you want your daughter to feel, by the way, is comfortable with this arrangement. And I'll say it again, I'll explain. The last thing you want your daughter to feel is comfortable with this arrangement, because the moment your daughter feels comfortable with inconsistency, instability, unpredictability, that is when your daughter thinks that is normal. The moment your daughter finds comfort in that, that means she thinks that is normal. And when children think something is normal, they go out of the way to copy and paste as they repeat relationships later on. So you want your daughter to think that this is not okay, but then she's got to turn to you and find stability, consistency, predictability in your relationship with her. So you protect her relationship with her dad as much as you can with that stability, but at least she must have one pilot in her world that offers her that stability, that honesty, that transparency, that consistency, and that must be in you. Now, I'll say one more thing just about the relationship. Yeah. With a narcissist, especially when they're part of your world, if this was a friend, I would say to you, well, the coin theory, just don't invest anymore. It's done, it's finished. There's no reason to invest any more time and effort into this relationship. But because this is the father of your child, he's going to be a part of your life in some way or capacity for the rest of her life or for the rest of his life. So we can't get rid of him. But what we have to do is minimize or manage the damage. So it's not about which strategy do we get him to behave in, it's rather which strategy can he cause less damage. Think about like a really naughty child that's having a tantrum and is not going to stop. It's not about making the child feel happy, but how do we remove the people around? How do we manage the environment? How do we manage the situation so the damage is less? A lot of people expect dealing with a narcissist to change their mind, to get them to be adults, to get them to behave, to get them to be able to look at other people and consider their feelings. It's not going to happen. It will never happen. That must not be an expectation in your mind. So again, I want you to think about which strategy do I use to minimize the damage for my daughter. And the best way to do it, as I said, is one, the boundaries with consequences, and offer her that stability, that consistency, not just with him, but more importantly with you.
Yeah. Okay. No. Awesome. Thank you. And the same implies for the my let's say mother-in-law.
Exactly the same. So if your partner is on board with understand, see, it would be a lot more difficult if your partner, for example, said, listen, my mother's fine. I love her. She needs to be a part of our world. If he doesn't see her as a narcissist, now you and him are going to be in conflict because he sees his mother one way and you see his mother another way. But if he sees his mother also as a naughty, rebellious child whose aim is to destroy, then you can both set boundaries.
Okay, no, we're on the same page, so that's fine.
Lovely. Then you need to set boundaries with consequences.
I
Okay,
love
awesome.
that.
Thank you so much.
but Thank you, Sarah. I hope that helps. And Doc, these narcissists, is there anything sort of long term you can do about them? I mean, apart from avoiding them in your life where possible.
So narcissists never come to therapy because they're never the problem. It's always society, culture, religion, my mom, my dad, my sister, my children that are the problem. And actually, the only time that we do see them in therapy is when they're sent by someone else. So when their wife said, I'm going to divorce you unless consequences. I'm going to divorce you unless you go for therapy. Their children send them, their parents send them to therapy. But most of the time, they don't get better. And the reason why they don't get better is because narcissists generally find people that enable their narcissistic behavior. We call them yes men, people that enable. So a narcissist will naturally attach themselves to people that tell them that you're doing the right thing. Everybody else is doing the wrong thing. So they don't get better. The only way a narcissist can get better is when everybody in their circle tells them that they're going the wrong way. Everybody in their circle calibrates them. But narcissists generally find people that tell them, no, you're right. Everybody else is wrong, which makes them feel good about themselves, but then they don't improve. They don't have a need to change.
Yeah, it just feels a little bit close to home, some of this narcissist stuff. I think a lot of people have narcissistic tendencies, but the word is used almost in a cavalier way to describe people who are a bit selfish, which is not the case.
Yeah, immature.
Absolutely. We're talking about a very specific kind of personality disorder, right?
Right, for sure. I mean, look, being selfish at times is very helpful, but the moment you really don't care about what other people think and aren't able to adapt to social norms and other people that are sitting in front of you, that becomes a problem.
Right. Okay, well, been very interesting, Sarah. Thanks for bringing your problem to us. I hope that Dr. Hanan has helped you. And give us an update once. Give us an update once you've put those boundaries with consequences into place.
Will do. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Sarah. There we go. Not cool. All right, Doc, we will check in with you next week.
Yeah, I look forward to the consequences. Just remember, boundaries are no boundaries without the consequences. Just remember that. That's very important.
Very, very good. All right, Doc, thank you. Right, and we will be back with more just after 7 o'clock. This is cliffcentral.com on a beautiful spring morning. I hope you're having an awesome start to your day. We will try to make it even better before you start the rest of it.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
Okay, so in Moscow, it's you get a hefty fine if your car's too dirty. So if it's too dirty,
I think that law should be in South Africa.
It should be everywhere.
Yeah,
honestly.
Like I think it should be a law against the inside of the car being dirty.
Yes, I saw a crazy car this past weekend with that exact problem. In France, everyone by law is I was going to say commissioned, but you're required by law to carry a breathalyzer.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Every time you listen to that 80s show, Tom Cruise lives another 10 years. Every Friday on CliffCentral.com, Paolo and Dory review movies, reminisce about old songs, remember childhood places that are now car parks, and say some outrageously rude things about Patrick Swayze's brother. That 80s show, new episode every Friday, live or as a podcast on CliffCentral.com.
Are live, cliffcentral.com on this Monday morning, just after 7. This week, Simpiwe is off. She's taken the week off for the first time in ages. So in the studio, we've got Glamour, and we've got Ryan, and we've obviously got Mash, who's on the screen with us this morning too, and Leanne Moll is here. So what's happening? What is happening? We talked a little bit earlier about some of the TV stuff that we've been watching over the weekend. Do you know what I started watching? Is Rings of Power on Amazon.
How is it?
Oh, man. Okay, so I was complaining the other day that we've run out of ideas and all these shows are the same and they just keep rehashing stuff. And I still stand by that. But this is apparently the most expensive show ever produced. It costs more per episode than, I think, any blockbuster movie even, in terms of the amount of money that they've had to spend on making this. And I mean, it's obviously Tolkien. It comes from the books before the Lord of the Rings. So there's loads of material, and people are invested in that universe like they are in the Harry Potter universe or in Star Wars or in any of that stuff. So, a lot of fans are very particular. They want it done right. The scale of the thing is huge. I mean, you must see, if you haven't watched it yet, the most amazing thing about this, and it's worth watching on a TV rather than a laptop, because the scenery is just absolutely magnificent. I mean, you've got these incredible fantasy landscapes with like valleys and mountains and oceans and just the most incredible and beautiful detail in every background that I've ever seen. That alone is worth watching. I mean, even if you don't care about the story, just to watch it for that. I mean, it's like, they take those beautiful pictures that you see of Switzerland that so many people have as, desktop backgrounds on their computers. These magnificent, these towering mountains, and then these beautiful green fields and waterfalls. And I mean, from that point of view alone, I've got to tell you, it's absolutely spellbinding. And then they've worked really hard on the characters, and they've brought in, a whole lot of the kind of the races and the backgrounds of so many of these people who I suppose you might know a little bit about from Lord of the Rings. They're dwarves and they're elves and they're humans and they're monsters, and it's incredible, really incredible. So well done to Amazon for spending some of Jeff Bezos's money to produce something this good, because they could have done a cheap shit thing with it, like the SABC did with the SAFTAs over the weekend.
At least you saw where that budget went.
Yeah, but I mean, this is amazing. You see what can be done now, and I don't think there are a lot of humans involved. You don't have to build sets like you might have. Obviously, they do build sets for the close-up stuff, but these backgrounds, these locations are just extraordinary.
So now I haven't seen any of it, and I never said that I would watch it because I'm not really into that fantasy stuff. But I did read a story that the reviews were really bad, but so bad, in fact, that Amazon has shut down the reviews on certain platforms. I rely quite heavily on a platform called Rotten Tomatoes, and they've shut down reviews there completely. You're not allowed to review it anymore. Because they were trying to stop. They were trying to stop all the trolling, and so I mean, again, I don't proclaim to know anything about it, but does that surprise you, Gareth?
I think people are going to find something wrong. It's like the Star Wars fans. They're going to bitch and moan about whatever happens. Whatever comes up is not going to be good enough, because again, people get so attached to this, especially these geeks and nerds who love these kind of parallel universes where you've got superpowers and different kind of orcs and things. People get into their own heads how they want the story to go, how they want the characters to look, how they want them to sound. You can never please all of those people. And so I think a lot of them are just grumpy because it's not exactly what they wanted. It's me, 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 me. It's that narcissistic tendency that we were talking about with Dr. Hanan just a moment ago. I don't know. I think it's just as a standalone kind of work of art, as a piece of film. I think it's beautifully done. And if you just watch it that way and you're not too attached to, whether the story is exactly the way Tolkien would have written it, or, if the characters are this size or that color or this sort of, it doesn't bother me. Like I could care less. And of course, Hollywood's going to try and make everything as woke as possible too. But in this, I think it's pretty good, I have to say. Corona's Boring says, the Silmarillion, which is the book that most of this comes from, was so yawn. Took me 3 years of falling asleep to finish that book. I have to say it wasn't great. I read it years ago as well. I didn't love it either. There's so much of this that's like, this one son of that one who was the cousin of this one who came from this, town or village. And it's like a whole lot of biographical stuff about these characters that you've just met, giving them a whole lot of background that you didn't actually need to know. And I suppose for all the nerds, that's good. They want to know as much of that as possible. I just have to say, if you're going to watch anything, it's worth watching this. And House of the Dragon is also on, which a lot of people are into that too. So I don't know. At least you are living at a time where all of these shows are able to be made, and they're made convincingly. You can see these creatures and these locations that would only have been described in words in books. Now they can bring them to life. You need a lot of money, you need a big budget, but if they can do it, I think it's incredible.
Wow, it's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. And we haven't had something to actually mope over since Game of Thrones ended a couple of years ago. So this is an exciting time.
Yeah, we kind of forget that up to a very short while ago, these kinds of massive universes that are turned into stories were impossible to create. You had to do them in some small scale, like soundstage kind of thing. I don't think we can even cast our mind back to when you had to make these things with you had to actually build a little set, and then for the zoom out they'd paint a background, paint it.
Oh Lord.
These backgrounds are alive, there's birds flying, there are mountains, there are waterfalls, it's amazing. There's smoke coming out of chimneys. It's incredibly well done. So anyway, I mean, it's like a high school play in the old days with one painted tree and a patch of grass.
Yeah. Cardboard.
Cardboard cutouts. It's amazing. I just thought that was really good. So I've watched one episode of that. I'll get into the rest of it as it comes out. I think it's weekly. So they're releasing an episode weekly of both House of the Dragon and Rings of Power. So there's plenty to watch. And even if you just appreciate it for the work of art that they've thrown together here, that's enough. Even if you don't like the story.
That is beautiful, Gareth. I'm actually going to check them out, but after a couple more episodes have dropped. But speaking of world-class entertainment, I went down the Roxy Styles rabbit hole this weekend. And for those of you who don't know who's Roxy Styles, she's a girl on TikTok who basically has been breaking up people's marriages and relationships.
Oh, yes. The blonde girl, right? Long blonde.
Yes, the blonde girl with like the
hair.
ginger. Yes.
Yes.
She is an absolute nutcase and I love watching it. So what she does is she contacts people's husbands, people's boyfriends on Instagram and flirts with them. And then after flirting with them...
she's hot. She's a good-looking girl. Yeah.
And after flirting with them a bit, she then posts the evidence on TikTok. So she shares it And she'll even at you as the wife or the girlfriend that, yo, hey, so I actually was talking to your boyfriend and look at this. He actually entertained me. He actually wants to meet with me. He actually wants to cheat on you, basically. And she got absolutely cyberbullied by a whole bunch of women. Women were actually attacking her, which I found odd because you'd imagine the men would attack her on social media. But then women were attacking her, and to retaliate, she decided to actually target every single woman who was cyberbullying her on TikTok in the comments. Went to all their Instagrams, and if they actually tagged their partners in their bios, which is weird, by the way. I don't know why people do that. Why would you actually put your partner's bio, your partner's handle on your bio?
People, no, I mean, I can understand that. Like there's some people who they put their partner in their bio because you want to know if they're single or not, or they want to tell you that they're in a relationship. I mean, for some people, it is the most important thing in their life, and I understand that. You know, let's say you're married or you've been dating the same person for like 3-4 months or more. Then you want people to know, probably. So you put it in the. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
And this woman then went and she targeted these women who were like going at her in the comments.
Found their partners.
And then she went after these partners.
Yes, so she DM'd every single one of these partners. And some of these partners actually responded, and they were actually quite interested. Very interested, wanted to meet her, started talking a bit dirty with her and all of that. Yes, there's Roxy. She's beautiful. She's a beautiful girl. Yeah. And then she shared it on social media, and things just went even more berserk. Things went even more out of control. More women were attacking her. But what really, really got me is the fact that women were attacking her.
Yeah.
You'd imagine the guys would actually be like, yo, why are you doing this?
Oh, no. This is a time, age-old thing that happens, is that if a woman is in a relationship with a guy and the guy cheats on her with another woman, she immediately reserves most of her anger and hatred for the other woman, even though the person who's
as a woman
done a dirty is the boy, is the guy.
It's maybe it's a stereotype, but as a woman, you feel like another woman should know better or should, have some kind of sympathy towards other women. I mean, like personally, I want to throttle her and push her face into the dashboard. But and then men will probably men are reluctant to climb into women and lambaste them because it's just not the PC thing to do right now. So that's probably why she's getting away with all this stuff. But I just think she's a bored little tart who needs like some tragedy in her life so that she can grow up, really.
Oh, so you don't like this Roxy Styles? You think she's
definitely not?
You think she's a dangerous? What about
what a waste of space?
All right, but what about the argument that she's just revealing that these guys will go after a girl?
She's not just revealing; she's initiating it. She's the one soliciting, really. Not on.
Leanne, if it's not her, it'll be some other girl.
Well, that's fine.
True.
But she's putting
a
it
girl
out there.
Who won't.
She's advertising it, and so that's why I'm picking on her.
My thing is, as Gareth just said, if it's not her, it is another girl, and a girl who won't share anything, and a girl who will go all the way with this. A girl who won't just stop at the chatting and just post screenshots, but actually start a whole relationship.
Well, I don't like that girl either, but I don't know who that girl is. This girl has decided to make herself public. And so,
all right.
Yeah.
So do you ever get like DMs from people who are in relationships? Because I do. I sometimes get a DM from some girl who's like, I know she's I might not know her personally, but if I go and look at her profile, I can see she's with somebody, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll be polite and kind, especially if she's pretty, but if she's ugly, I'll just ignore it. And I'm not going to flirt back necessarily. I mean, I have on occasion, but never with the intention of actually getting in the way of their relationships. I just think this happens all the time. And I don't know why we'd be so angry with this woman. She's found a niche where, because she's good looking, she can make other women's men contact her and make, or at least she, even if she initiates, keep up a conversation. There's something about this that is the men's fault. Like, I do understand. I do understand that you're upset with her, and I think probably a lot of other women in the comments are, for good reason. I mean, she's going around and targeting these guys and then making moves on them. In other words, she's undermining relationships, which is horrible. It's horrible behavior. But I'm telling you, there are lots of people who are doing exactly this. They're just not making it public like she is. At least she has the
I don't
balls.
like them either.
And they're going all the way with it.
What's the solution?
No, there's no solution. Just like we spoke about narcissists, they're not going to change, and they'll always be around. We just have to coexist with them. But if you're going to ask me my opinion, I'll tell you, and that's that I don't agree with what she's doing.
The solution
it's actually quite cheap and sick, really.
Yeah, but what does it tell you about men? I mean, what does it tell you about these guys as well, that they are in relationships?
You don't have to tell me about. You don't have to ask me my opinion on men. You know what my opinion is.
I am, because surely some larger part of your ire has to be directed if you're one of these girls whose relationship's being undermined by this woman. A large part of it has to be a problem you have with the guy, right?
Of course. I mean, I'm the first person to say, I ask men, I ask guy friends and family members, and I say to them, do you think it's possible for a man to be faithful? And a lot of them say, no, it's not. So, again, I know that I've dealt with that, and I know that that's what men are, a lot of men are like. And so I choose not to be with them. I coexist with them, but I'm fully aware of what I don't need to be part of. And it's either cheating men or this woman who's bored and making shit in other people's lives. Really. Seriously, she needs some life experience and to have experienced some tragedies of her own so that she can put her existence into context.
Jeez. All right.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes people aren't really flirting because they want to flirt. They're just flirting out of just being polite. I'm sure you've all been
that happens too.
Where we just flirt out of being polite because somebody's really coming on a bit too strong, and you're like, okay, let me not humiliate them. Let me not absolutely shatter their world. Let me just be polite.
What part of this situation that I've been in was fun for me? I've told you before, where a partner had asked me to log on to their, Twitter, so that I could post on their behalf.
Mm-hmm.
When it came to boosting their profile and all of that sort of thing. And they had forgotten that I had their login. And when this person made me sleep in a separate room, my phone beeped and I realized it was an alert on somebody had slid into their DMs. And it was just some random girl, obviously, could very well have been a guy or an ugly girl, but had a very beautiful profile photo. And I watched the two of them. He was in the room next door, and I watched the two of them have this online floating session, which then probably led to him physically engaging with himself as well. So I waited for that to end before I opened the door and confronted him, and he denied everything and then gaslighted me by saying, what were you doing looking at my messages? Okay. And turned it around into that way. So what part of a guy being flirted with and responding in the way that she wanted to, and what part of a random girl flirting with this guy did I enjoy? Fucking none of it. None of it. And now you're asking me my opinion on this girl and on men who flirt.
This is exactly why I want your opinion, because I know you have strong views about this. I don't want to be talking to someone who's like, no, that's okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
We just like to talk about this. That's great.
So,
you know?
Yes.
so I know that these people exist, and I'm not going to pretend that I want to live in a Disney world as much as I sing the song
Mhm.
One Day My Prince Will Come. I know they exist, but I just choose not to engage with them. And I won't even go as far as getting into her DMs and saying, you know, well, you're a bitch and what are you doing? Really? It's not my bag.
I just think that there are always going to be these people in the world who are trying to, and listen, I don't like any of this stuff either, because I think it's really, it's you know, your motives are horrible. Like if your motives are that you actually like someone and you don't realize, or you do, that they're in a relationship, and you start flirting with them, that's one thing. But to do it with the intention of exposing these people, it's like it's such a it's a sinister and deceitful way of doing things. Like I understand people are always, you know, people are going to chase an opportunity. If there's a really gorgeous, unbelievably sexy human being trying to make contact with you, you're going to be like, wow, okay, let me follow this up, see how far I can take it. And it might be, you might have innocent intentions. You'd be like, okay, well, we're just going to chat. And I know that some people consider that cheating, full stop. So then for them, it's already too late. Maybe you want to take it further. Maybe you do actually have like intentions of meeting up with this person or whatever. Then, you know, that's on you. But when her or his intention is to expose you for being a cheater, when we all know that most human beings would respond to that kind of thing on the internet. Most human beings are desperate for attention. Most human beings will do anything for a little bit of love. And especially from someone really attractive that looks like they're legit. You know, a guy would be like, oh, this is too good to be true. If some girl like this Roxy suddenly pitches up in the DMs and like, hey, you look like fun. Do you want to go for a drink or something? I would be like, sure. And
Absolutely.
I'm not one of those people who's desperate for attention or needy or hoping to like find the love of my life. None of that stuff is true for me, but I'd still go, hell yeah, I'll meet you for a drink. Now, if I were in a relationship and that happened, I think I'd feel guilty about it. But it's her intention of exposing this to the girlfriends or wives. It's just like you're interfering in a relationship that's not yours. So you shouldn't have got in the first place. I kind of agree with Leanne on that front.
Cheap thrills, really.
Yeah.
It is.
And let's remember, she's not doing this because she actually cares about whether people's relationships are solid or not. She's doing this because it gets her clout.
Yeah, she's not. It's not even as if she's a friend of these women and is trying to alert them to the fact that their husbands are, you know, prone to cheating.
Right.
You know, that even there's intention there, but with her, I don't quite get what the intention is.
Well, it's clearly
Shits and giggles.
yeah, she's become famous because of this. So that's the addiction. That's probably the reason she's chasing it, because it makes her famous, makes her important. People know her name. We would not know her name if this wasn't what she was doing. Right?
Yeah. And once you're TikTok famous, I mean, we're speaking about her, right?
Yeah.
And we're a broadcaster of some type. And like Mash mentioned earlier, media take TikTok as their lead and tweets. And she will end up on something like CNN. She will.
Yeah.
Or some big talk show. She could end up on Dr. Phil. So
There's an
if it's fame she's after, then she's going to get it.
There's an interesting question that could really balance the equation more in her favor. Does she tell the women when their husbands are loyal, though? Because that
No,
would
we
be
never hear that.
So you never hear from, because there might be some husbands, I should hope there would be more than a few, and some boyfriends who would actually say, hey, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm in a relationship.
Yes, I'm sure there's a lot, but she has never posted such before. It's always the ones who do respond and actually do return that energy that she's giving off.
And then you have to ask, you know, why is she famous? Because people like seeing this kind of exposure. They like seeing other people's perfect lives ruined. There's a bit of Schadenfreude going on here too. It's like, oh, well, I have a terrible life. I have a terrible relationship. My world is falling apart around me, but at least she's ruining these other people's relationships too. You know, because that's what a lot of people are, those kinds of people, especially the ones who are on the internet the whole time.
Yes, because they're like, oh, at least it's not just me being cheated on. At least.
Yeah. And so in conclusion, we can say, says Beth, social media is just toxic. Well,
yeah.
There's a lot of good that comes out of it. In fact, it's mostly good. Yeah.
So Mash, you're planning on a birthday weekend in when is your birthday?
It's on the 22nd of September.
Oh, okay.
It's a way away. Good planning ahead, though.
It's not that far away. Listen, I got a call from a friend of mine. She said to me, "What are we doing in December?" I was like, "What? It's September. I haven't thought about that." No, she's planning already. So there are lots of people thinking about this stuff. Good for you, Mash. It's only a couple of days away. I mean, you know, we're moving quickly. Today is what, the 5th of September already. So yeah, you've got to plan these. So what do you want to do for your birthday?
It's coming quick. So what I'm planning at the moment is actually doing a trip. So going to Durban and then coming back. Cool, Durban, you know, it's just the usual. Joburg people go to Durban all the time. But what I'm planning to do differently is drive to Durban with an electric car. So go all the way to Durban in an electric car and then come back in an electric car. So it does involve quite a bit of admin. Admin being I have to actually firstly add all the charging stops along my route and also factor in what I'll be doing while the car is charging, because a car takes about 2 hours. An average electric car takes about 2 hours to charge, 90 minutes to 2 hours. So in that time, I have to actually factor in activities that I'll be doing. So I'm actually building out an entire itinerary.
You should probably talk to George from Auto Trader. He might have some advice for you. He's done the whole. I think he's done the whole trip to Cape Town in an electric car, totally electric. So no internal combustion engine at all. And I think this is exciting. I mean, it sounds to me like, you know, the road trip is half the fun.
Yeah. So I am so excited and nervous at the same time. I hope I won't have to lunge around my own generator like the Gallo Records people.
You won't have to do that. And that won't work anyway, because they have these charging stations. But I mean, when it comes to getting the car and everything, really start off by speaking to George.
Yes.
He'd be able to help you.
I think that'll be lots of fun. I think it'll be lots of fun. And then even at the beach as well, just base the entire trip around just how electric cars have just become so, well, here in South Africa, I mean, we just have to accept them. We have to accept them and accept that they're becoming the norm, slowly but surely.
I laughed though.
Slowly but surely.
Just like narcissists and cheating women and men.
We were talking earlier about the kind of, you know, coal-fired power stations and the old energy generation versus the new ones, you know, solar and wind and all of that stuff. And now we're talking about cars. But in California, just last week, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, he's introducing legislation that they will not be able to sell an old internal combustion engine car in California within the next 5 years, I think it is. They're going to phase them out completely in terms of sales, new sales of cars. And then in the same week, he had to beg people not to charge their electric cars because there's such pressure on the grid. You know, that they're going to have load shedding. So again, trust politicians to screw this thing up completely, right? It is kind of
trust
ridiculous.
them indeed.
Also,
Trust
where do
them.
they think those petrol-powered cars are going to go to? They're not just going to disappear into thin air. If it's the environment that they want to protect, they're going to just go to poorer communities and or countries, like maybe what are we? A shithole country.
Yeah.
South Africa will just be full of all of these cheap petrol cars.
Well, I mean, listen, if you can keep them up, they may just last a very long time. I suppose if you've got a car and you've paid it off, stick to that car. Don't get rid of it anytime soon. Especially if you are sick of it and you're thinking, oh, I hate this car. But if you've paid it off, stick with it. especially in this kind of economy. You want to hold on to things like that rather than end up in a brand new car with new debt and all of that stuff. We'll talk about some of that next. It's kind of appropriate that we're going into the direction of the economy. It's time for Markets Monday with markets.com. And we're going to check in on Markets Mondays, which of course we do twice a month. And here's a special offer to everyone who listens to the show. You can follow the link on cliffcentral.com to register with markets.com. I was talking to Solomon the other day, and he said we've got lots and lots of people registering already. It's worth a try. Go and check it out. If you haven't done it yet, go and do it today. Markets.com, we've got a link up on cliffcentral.com. When you sign up, you must email them, please, with your email address and say, that we sent you, and you will get a 30% bonus on your deposit. So if you put in 100 Rand, you'll get an extra 30 Rand. I mean, that's terrific, right? So you can go and do that immediately. So email them at support@markets.com, and then they will give you an extra 30% bonus, which is terrific. So let's get into this, because I think for a lot of people, when we talk about money, they get a little bit nervous. They're not sure. We've got so many things going on at the moment. There's so many things that we don't understand. Soaring rates, increased energy, oil prices, we know about that, skyrocketing inflation, especially in the US, and a potential for global recession. It is natural to pose a question like, are we blowing up? So what should traders be preparing for in an environment like this? This is something I asked Solomon the other day, and he said, well, he gave us some very good answers. He looked at the overall global picture. But today we're going to speak to Simon Brown. He's a partner with Markets.com. He's also a trader himself, an investor and a market teacher with decades of market experience. And we're going to learn a little bit about the tools and the insights that they can provide so that you and I can react and even act proactively with the changing aspects of the market. This is the kind of stuff that is very, very useful to know. And I'm very, very happy to have Simon Brown join us today. Hey, Simon, how are you?
Gareth, I'm good, and yourself?
Excellent, excellent. So in my introduction, I talked about some of the forces that are working on the world economy at the moment, some of the forces that are making people consider very carefully where they put their money, where they invest, where they want to withdraw money from. Is that a reasonably good macro picture of what's going on? How would you explain all of this, and what factors do you think we should consider if we're going to go into trading on platforms like Markets.com, and especially while you're trading in the South African 40 index, which is something I spoke to Solomon about last time?
Yeah, I globally, the two big challenges globally are energy, and that is particularly acute in Europe, where they, of course, get their energy mostly from Russia, and we know exactly how badly that's going. And then inflation, rampant inflation across the world, which means higher interest rates, which means consumers under pressure. But to bring it back to the SA40, which is the 40 largest companies on the JSE in South Africa. And everyone looks at that and thinks to themselves, well, 40 largest companies in South Africa, they must be what we would refer to as, I suppose, SA Inc. In other words, companies that are operational and making their profit in South Africa. And so we would look to what's happening locally rather than potentially a global picture. But the weird thing with our stock exchange and those large companies is that probably fully somewhere around 65, 70, maybe even sometimes 75% of the profits of those companies are not in rands. And I'll give you examples. A mining company, they're mining PGMs, perhaps it's Thungela and they're exporting coal, or a gold company. Those commodities are actually traded in dollars and then converted into rands. And then, of course, we've got companies such as Richemont on our exchange, which is one of the largest companies. And Richemont sells fancy watches and jewelry. And when I say fancy, I'm talking expensive, like eye-wateringly so. And those sales are, there's a bit happening in Sandton and the V&A waterfront, right? But the vast majority of it is happening in Europe. It's happening in China. It's happening in North America. So our SA40 is actually less about South Africa, and again, more about a global context than what's actually happening on our local shores within the borders.
And Simon, let's be frank about this too. The South African sort of top 40 index has not moved very much in the last while, because you could say that the market's been fairly stagnant, but you can also say that there isn't tremendous growth happening either in South Africa or anywhere else for that matter, obviously as a result of the pandemic, but there are other factors at play here as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, there absolutely is. And I mean, one of the weird things that is happening, and if we look so far year to date, most global indices are red for the year, led mostly by the NASDAQ, which has been having a horror 2022 so far. We're less red, and that's less red is barely winning. It's no fun whatsoever. But it is, as I mentioned up front, I mean, that energy crisis is real and hurting Europe. And we haven't even touched on the implications of the drought that we're seeing in Europe and China, which is also impacting food supplies, food security, and again, impacting energy. Those rising interest rates quite simply take money out of the pockets of consumers, because most consumers are going to have some debt. It costs more. We have got less to spend, and we've got less to spend on higher pricing. So what we're actually seeing is global indices the world over are frankly red for the year. And there was a hope that maybe we could have a nice rally. Certainly we did from mid-June to mid-August, but that's faded. Jerome Powell and the sort of central banks the world over are taking out their whips and saying to the markets, nope, we are serious about pushing this inflation, which means we've actually got indices down. Now, for a long-term investor, that means you're losing, your portfolio is less than it was a year ago, but you're a long-term investor, neither here nor there. The beauty of being a trader is we can actually make money in rising or falling markets, because that's the point with derivatives. If something's going up, you buy it, you make a profit. But if something's going down, you can sell it and make money on the downside. Today, our market's expected to open over 1% lower. If you'd taken that sell position, we call it a short, on Friday, you would actually be sitting quite pretty this morning and smiling over your morning coffee.
All right, so derivatives are a step beyond where we're going here, but I like that you brought that up, because it's one of the things that we'll be educating people on during this segment of the show. And really part of what we're going to do with markets.com is expose people like me and people like Leanne and Mash and all the other people who are going to sign up and try this, to all of the various things that you can do. And really, Markets is a great place to be able to do all this stuff. The South African top 40 are on there. You can learn how to use, derivative trades. You can short certain shares if you want to do that too. We'll look at all the other things that you can do, but let's focus on commodities for a minute. Let's just do a quick review in your own words of a few choice commodities that people might be considering for upcoming trades. What are you looking at in the commodities market? Because that's big in South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's oil, it's Brent, and I'm actually going to come to that in a second, because a lot of people will be saying it's gold. And as a South African investor, certainly sort of from the 70s through to the early 2000s, 2010, we were gold bugs, and everyone wanted to own a slice of gold. And the theory is that when inflation is high, well, everyone rushes into gold. Well, now for the first time in 40 years, we've got global inflation, and gold is going weaker. And the reason's quite simple. People are scared. And when you're scared, what do? Well, cash is your best thing. And truthfully, when I say cash, we're not talking randelas or euros or even pounds. We're talking US dollars. Money is flooding into the US dollar. In fact, it's the strongest it's been in 20 years this morning. My preferred commodity remains oil, and I tell you why. And when I say oil, I mean Brent. There's a couple of different flavors. You get West Texas Intermediate out of the US, but Brent's the more globally accepted one. When oil is quoted and someone says it's 95.50 a barrel, they're probably meaning Brent. What I like about it is, from a trader perspective, is it gets nice trends going. And what I mean by that is, you could have taken a position in the Brent about a year ago or so. It was $70 or so. And then, of course, when the war broke out 6 months back in February, it's trading 130 odd. And within that, there's not too much volatility. There's not too much bouncing around and craziness happening. It's that smoothness of the ride, which means you're making profit, but it also means you're sleeping well at night. And perhaps the sleeping is even more important than the profit. Long term, we want our money, but if we're not, if you're stressed, what are you going to do with the cash becomes the important point. And I got to say, I've been bullish on oil for a while, and then it was trading sort of earlier in the year between 100, about 100, 113. It's now come back to the low to mid 90s. And that's a fairly critical point for Brent oil. If we can see that level hold and it start to move a little bit higher, we're seeing Putin shutting off the Gazprom gas lines over the weekend. Ostensibly, he says we're doing maintenance.
Oh, yeah.
No one believes him about that. Now, I mean, even he doesn't believe that anymore.
No.
But I look at oil as a commodity to trade, and it's an attractive because of the smaller moves and because you get nice, almost sort of economic / geopolitical trends built into it, which can run for protracted periods of time.
Yeah, it's so interesting to watch what OPEC does in these situations, because they want more bang for their buck in terms of the amount that they can charge for oil. So they actually throttle supply. When, we had Joe Biden go over to Saudi Arabia just a short while ago and say, please open up the supply because we need more. And it's interesting that if you watch these kinds of things, you get a pretty good handle on what might happen to oil and therefore what happens to everything else. Because, of course, the point with oil is that it's not only energy, but it's also transport, logistics. The price of pretty much everything goes up when the oil price goes up. And when it comes down, they keep those prices up. It's something that affects consumers at the till. Let's just talk a little bit about this. You mentioned you're bullish about oil, but do you think we've reached the bottom of the bear market? Because people are saying, well, in America, things are turning around now. That could be a sign that it's turning around everywhere else. How do you feel about this?
I don't think we have. And there was certainly, as I said, from around mid-June to around mid-August, there was a nice run-up. Easy 15% in a number of offshore indices, including the Nasdaq, S&P, the European indices and the like. And it was looking positive. And I was making some money because as a trader, you're looking for those shorter term moves and you worry about the longer term later. But what we've seen is the market getting worried again. And they're really back to worried about those two key points. And the big one right now remains inflation and interest rates. We had the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, speaking at Jackson Hole Friday before last. And he made no bones about it. He said inflation is enemy number one, and we're going to do everything to fight it, and it will be painful. And he made the point. He said this will be painful. And when he says painful, he means painful for people out there, me, you, the listeners and viewers. It's going to be painful for them. And if it's painful for them, by very simple proxy, it's going to be painful for the companies. We're going to be buying less because we've got less money in our pocket, because we can't afford to drive as much because of the cost of getting from A to B. And that really did spook the market. On the day, we saw the Nasdaq off some 4%. We've seen more selling subsequent to that. I've mentioned our market looking to open over 1% weaker this morning. The US is closed today, Labor Day, so we won't get any response from them. And of course, the crisis going down in Europe, both the war and energy. So I think we've got more downside coming. And are we going to break those lows that we saw in June from the US, from Europe and the like? And I think that certainly that is a distinct possibility. But even if we're not going to break them, those lows are 10, 15% lower, depending which index you're looking at. And we've got that fear back in the market. We've got that selling back in the market, which says there's probably at least another 10+% on the downside. And if it really starts to get ugly and we get some more sort of bad news into the equation, such as Putin shutting gas lines, such as bad inflation numbers out of the US and Europe, we could well be exceeding those. And suddenly your potential 10% downside starts looking 15, 20. Who knows how low we can go? I mean, markets can get ugly. And and I want to stress the point, Gareth, we're talking short-term stuff here. For the long-term investor with retirement products and the like, you're looking 5, 10, 30 years into the future. What's happening now in spring of 2022, not so important. But for the traders out there, this is a market to be short of.
All right, so I can't let you go without asking you this, because it's something that I'm always keen to hear experienced traders like you talk about. Currencies can be a very dangerous place to play. I mean, I've seen people get their fingers burnt. And in currencies, you really have to know what you're doing. A lot of people claim to be currency traders. They make one good trade and then they suddenly think they're experienced. 2 or 3 trades down, and they're back to where they started. Now, what would you advise people when it comes to trading currencies? And how has your experience of this helped you to make better decisions about what to do? And of course, again, this doesn't constitute financial advice that you can take verbatim. I want Simon to just give us his own experience here and explain a little bit about what he knows about currency trading.
So my first piece of advice, Gareth, is stay away, particularly as a novice trader. I still have all 10 of my fingers, but I tell you what, there were some times when it was very, very close in my early days. And I tell you what it is, and it's partly the folks on Facebook who promising you that you can buy a Lamborghini by the weekend for your hot date and everything. And you know what? I've been around the block. I've literally been in this since the 90s. There's money to be made, but currencies is like the pointy end of trading. You're trading against the pros, the traders at JP Morgan and City Chase and those sort of traders. So the absolute pros in this sense. And the other problem, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds because I know you're going to do derivatives in more detail in one of the follow-up shows, but essentially people take on far too much risk. So, you know, you've put $100 in or $1,000 or whatever it might be, but you're essentially trading a much bigger position, and a small move against you can get really, really nasty, and yeah, cost you money and put your fingers at risk. For me, I quite like them once you've become a more experienced trader, and it's because they give you those nice sort of trends. I mean, we look at our rand and it's as volatile as heck. That currency can move 10 or 20 cents, and that's just Tuesday. Yeah, nothing, just Tuesday. Right. But if you trade the majors, you trade the euro, the yen, the dollar, the sterling, and the crosses between that, you know, their moves are fairly moderate. And again, it comes back to the point I really said I like about oil, is that a trend starts to happen. And if you get it right, you can ride that trend for months, even potentially a year. I mentioned the dollar index at 2-decade highs. That just didn't suddenly happen. That's been a trend that's been in place since about the middle of last year. And if you could have been riding that and spotted it in advance and got onto that without taking on too much risk, keep it light, there's some good cash to be made there. But for a newbie, watch rather than stick your toe in that water because, man, there are sharks.
Yeah, that's some really good advice. And I think that we should all be a little bit careful. But the nice thing about going onto markets.com is they have resources available to you too. So you must go and check them out. Even if you just want to go and see, you just want to take a look at the place. It's like there's people who go and look at show houses, but they have no intention to buy. Go and see what's going on at markets.com. And if you do decide to sign up and put in some money, then you'll get an extra 30% if you do it with us. Just send them an email, support@markets.com, and they'll give you an extra 30%. Simon, it's great to see you, and thank you very much for being on the show this morning.
Absolute pleasure, Gareth.
Great info from Simon there, and that's terrific. We have a whole lot more from markets.com in forthcoming weeks, and we want you to be a part of this journey with us as we figure out everything from commodities to stocks and shares to derivatives and to currencies. You can play with all of them. And the best thing that you could probably do is experience a little bit of it with money that you're not too terrified of risking, and then slowly build up with experience. I think that's probably the best advice you can get. And again, I'm in no position to give you financial advice, but if I did look at what people I do know who've been successful at this do, they go slowly. They dip their toe in the waters, and they figure out what's going on, try to get to grips with all of the different moves in the economy, the world economy, the local economy, and then start to play more and more as they go into it. And I mean, this is true also for crypto, which we've been talking about for years already. It feels like years, and it is, even though it's a fairly novel asset class. We also will be keeping an eye on that stuff. I see Bitcoin trading at 19,717. So still not moving too much up or down over the last couple of weeks. It's unbelievable. Mash, Leanne, what else have you got on the agenda for this busy spring week? Anything exciting?
Sure.
Well, you're just blown away by that whole market.
Leanne, you're muted.
Maybe that's just my calling, Mash.
You're muted.
Yeah, just to be muted for the rest of my life.
Oh, no, look at your to-do list. You have a very busy week ahead of you.
Yeah.
I love lists. I don't know why you're wincing at it. I love a list.
Ooh, I love lists.
Don't
My
you
life
like-
is just a list.
Don't you like the fact, Leanne, that you can now go down that list and cross things off? Oh, it's the best.
I've been crossing things off.
Nice.
I don't know. It's like performance anxiety, really. Once I've put the stuff on paper and it's not in my head anymore, I have to do them.
Mhm.
Must be done and crossed out.
Yeah.
Yo,
But
so
we'll
for
get
this
there.
week, I'm just planning to do some admin stuff, especially regarding my trip. So a whole bunch of admin work as well. And that's about it. You know, I'm also planning on actually rearranging my entire closet. So I have one of those beds that open up. It like opens up beautifully, and then underneath the bed, I have all my suitcases and I have all kinds of baskets and stuff like that. It's a really cool bed. I even keep some stuff that I don't
Storage.
use anymore. Like, yeah, it's like a storage bed. And so what I do is in summer or spring rather, I take out all my winter clothes out of the closet and put them under the bed. And then
Nice.
some of my summer clothes, some of my skimpy summer clothes, skimpy pants, you know, fishnet shirts.
Your spaghetti strap tops.
That shit comes out of the bed,
you know,
right?
Yes, my dental floss underwear, all of that comes out from under the bed and goes
You are
into the closet.
maniac.
And all the winter stuff goes under the bed. So that's what I have to do as well. I'm gonna probably get to that slowly throughout the week. So I just take my time
Nice.
with that. I don't want to do it all at once.
Listen,
And yeah, I'm
that's
excited.
what they, that's why they call it. That's why they call it spring cleaning. It's the best time of year to do that stuff. I will be joining you, Mash, in terms of sorting out the stuff in the cupboards. That's got to happen this week. But I'm also in this awkward position where I need to do some stuff around the house that costs money, but I don't have the money. So I either just have to spend it and deal with it, you know, like use money I don't have, basically, and then get it done and figure out afterwards where it's going to come from. Or I just sit and look at things as they get worse and worse because I'm not maintaining them. So all of that shit has to happen. That's my week ahead.
I must say, I mean, I've been a homeowner since I was 23 years old.
Yeah.
Up until 6 months ago.
Yep.
That's when I started renting. And this weekend, my landlord popped in and he said, I've got 2 gardeners here. What do you need done inside? Can I paint something for you? We'll clean out the leaves from the gutter. Is there anything else that you need or you want? Can we plant this plant for you? And I could literally hear birds chirping in my head. It just sounded so sweet. I could have said anything. I could have said, yeah, let's paint the walls orange. Let's dig up this bed and move that. And by the way, this gutter's about to fall down. Can you fix that? And it wouldn't have been for my expense.
Well, you can do that now. That's one of the few upshots. I think a lot of people. It's also. I mean, I was talking about this with my sister yesterday because she and her boyfriend have been redoing and doing a whole lot of kind of maintenance and upgrades and stuff at their house because they bought a new house last year, and they love it so much that they're now thinking of like starting a business where they do this. And I said to them, just hold on, because first of all, other people don't always like the things that you like. Second of all, you need a lot of cash to be able to do those kinds of refurbishments and, people who are constantly redoing their houses. Unless you have lots of money, it can get very costly very quickly.
Yeah.
So don't get too excited. Rather just fix those things that absolutely need it and save money. Right now is not a great time to spend. That again does not constitute financial advice, but there we go. I've got to keep saying that because, if people take it seriously and then there's somebody who goes, oh, well, I did all of this and I heard it from this person. And now suddenly they're responsible for your bad decisions.
It's responsible media.
I like this comment from Beth. She's the 2 Virgo men love lists. What a surprise. It's me and Matt. And then a lot of people talking about your skimpy kimono for the neighbors.
Yes.
Yeah. That's it.
So I am going to Durban with someone. I was trying to decide who. That was the toughest part.
Ooh.
But I eventually decided to go with one of my friends, the friend who removes her tenants' doors for not paying their rent and takes people's cars when they want to borrow
Oh, yeah.
money. That's the friend
No,
I'm going with.
she sounds like a fun road trip friend. You got
Yes.
Bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Nobody's messing with me in Durban.
All right, everybody. Well, it's already almost 8 o'clock. We will see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. bright and early. Have an excellent and productive Monday. Get those lists going like Leanne has and like Mash and I have. And we will reconvene tomorrow and see how everybody's doing. Have an awesome spring Monday. Cheers.